July 16, 1054. Deep inside the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, morning liturgy preparations are interrupted. Cardinal Humbert, a representative of the Roman Catholic Church, striding directly into the center of the Orthodox world. Without bowing or speaking to the gathered clergy, he walks straight to the high altar and drops a sealed document before Patriarch Michael Cerularius. It is a papal bull of excommunication. Within hours, the Patriarch convened his own bishops and excommunicates Humbert right back. History records this specific exchange as the official start of the Great Schism, the severing of the Christian world into East and West. But papal decrees do not shatter empires overnight. The pressure had been building under the surface for hundreds of years. To understand the distinct Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches we see today, we have to trace the fractures back to their origins. The split was driven by three historic fault lines: governance, daily culture, and the exact nature of God. The first crack formed over a single question: who is actually in charge? In the West, Rome built its claim on apostolic legacy. They maintained that their authority flowed directly from St. Peter, the apostle who tradition holds was the first bishop of Rome. Because of this sacred foundation, popes asserted universal supremacy over the entire Christian faith. Over time, the papacy secured the political power to back up that claim. By aligning with Frankish kings in the 8th century, receiving vast tracts of land from Pepin the Short, and later crowning Charlemagne as emperor, the pope evolved from a spiritual leader into the ruler of a sovereign, independent state. The East viewed authority through an entirely different lens. In Constantinople, the capital of the empire, the Roman emperor governed both the state and the spirit. Rulers like Constantine and Justinian actively wrote religious law, defined core doctrine, and presided over the highest church councils. This map illustrates the Eastern administrative structure, known as the Pentarchy, or the Rule of Five. It shows church leadership divided evenly across 5 major bishoprics: Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem. While Eastern clergy granted Rome a ceremonial first place in honor, they completely rejected the idea that the Pope had absolute authority to dictate policy to the other 4. Ultimately, these two models could not coexist. The West demanded structural submission to a single sovereign pope, while the East operated as an imperial collective. As the empire split geographically, it also fractured culturally, beginning with language. In the West, Latin dominated. Meanwhile, Eastern scholars spoke and wrote in Greek. By the 5th century, the two halves of the church literally could not understand each other. Important theological letters sat unread because translators were scarce. Some Eastern intellectuals even mocked Latin as a barbarian language, breeding deep paranoia and mistrust. That linguistic barrier was reinforced by everyday habits. Western priests were bound to celibacy and largely clean-shaven. Eastern priests could marry and traditionally wore beards. These might seem like minor administrative details, but for the average believer, they functioned as constant, highly visible reminders. The people practicing across the sea no longer looked or sounded like part of the same religion. Early church councils agreed the Holy Spirit proceeded directly from the Father alone. But in 589, the Western Church added a single Latin word, filioque, meaning and the Son. They now taught the Holy Spirit proceeded from both the Father and the Son. The East reacted with fury. To Constantinople, taking unilateral action to change the Trinity constituted an illegal breach of tradition and outright heresy. These 3 pressures, authority, culture, and theology, finally collided in southern Italy. In 1053, the Pope issued a decree forcing Eastern-aligned churches in the region to adopt Latin rites or face closure. Patriarch Michael immediately retaliated by shutting down all Latin-speaking churches within Constantinople. While the filioque controversy provided the ideological wedge, this mutual demand for absolute submission over local church practices created a full-blown diplomatic crisis. The weapon was loaded. Cardinal Humbert just had to deliver it in 1054. In the immediate aftermath of 1054, very little actually changed for ordinary Christians. The excommunications were aimed at specific leaders, not entire congregations. For decades, Eastern and Western believers continued living side by side in relative peace. The true point of no return came much later, in the year 1204. During the Fourth Crusade, Western Latin armies turned their weapons away from their stated enemies and instead violently besieged and sacked the Christian city of Constantinople. Crusaders looted Orthodox churches, destroyed relics, and massacred the local population. This horrific violence solidified the high-level diplomatic dispute into a permanent, unforgivable betrayal. Today, the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches maintain those distinct identities. They remain two halves of the same original faith, permanently separated by the languages they spoke, their opposing definitions of authority, and a history of bloodshed that severed their world in two.